Jujutsu Kaisen is finally back. This was my favorite anime that I watched last year. I absolutely adored the Shibuya incident. It's one of the best anime arcs I've ever seen, and it's finally back for season 3. I'm absolutely buzzing. So I've already seen these first 2 episodes because I went to watch the Execution movie when it came out. But seeing it in this context, like sort of watching it at home, getting to dissect and analyze it a little bit more, I've got some more opinions on it now, basically. Now, when I first saw it in the cinema, I was just sort of going to watch it as like a spectacle, going to see Jujutsu Kaisen in cinema, going to see all the fights and just the way it all looks and stuff like that. I was really just there for the experience, really. But actually getting to watch these episodes on my own and just sort of like actually look into what's happening, I think there's actually a lot here that I'm really excited for. Let's talk about the first episode first. But before I even talk about the story or the characters, I just want to say, like, the way that this was presented, I absolutely adored. I thought it was amazing. The music felt extremely melancholic, like it was almost sad to listen to, and it feels very dystopian, and it's obviously apocalyptic. What Kamo did at the end of season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen has left the world in absolute pieces, and just seeing Yuji run away from the curses, it's an absolute barren city where there's no sign of life except for curses, and Yuji's just having to run away and fight them. And I mean, visually it looks stunning, like the colors and stuff like that. It looks incredible. Like, they did such a good job with making it visually appealing, but at the same time, with the music and the tone of everything, it does feel really sad at the moment and really, detrimental. It's almost like the world, it feels hopeless at the moment. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like the way they set the tone at the beginning of this first episode was amazing. I thought it was so well done. But let's talk about what the episode is actually about, and that is about Yuji being targeted by Yuta. That isn't the only thing, but I suppose that's one of the main things. But Yuta versus Yuji obviously started and happened in this episode, and I think it's the coolest concept in the world that the original protagonist for Jujutsu Kaisen, who was originally the story supposed to revolve around, I believe, is now coming to confront Yuji, who is the actual protagonist of Jujutsu Kaisen, and they have very obvious similarities. You have Yuta with Rika, as sort of like this power that's been bestowed upon him that he didn't necessarily want. He just has. Same with Yuji, who has Sukuna. They've both been cursed in a way with these powers. That comes with detrimental effects to their lives and things like that. Obviously, the situations are completely different, but they have that sort of similarity. But actually seeing these two clash, I think, is really interesting. And can I just say, like, Yuta's demeanor in this is horrifying. Like, the dude is so clinical. He's like a clinical assassin in this, and not just that, he's scary. He's like a fucking horror villain. Like, just the way he looks and the way he's talking and the way he sort of stalks Yuji and chases him down is actually quite frightening. And they really did a great job of making Yuta feel like such a massive threat. We know he's powerful, he's got Rika, and he's a special grade sorcerer similar to Gojo, but they made him feel like a unstoppable sort of threat. Do you know what I mean? We also got introduced to a new character called Naoya Zenin. Now, he's supposed to be the next head of the Zenin clan now that the head has just died. However, it was sort of said in the will of him that if Gojo was captured or his powers were taken away or he was killed, that the next leader would be Megami. So now Naoya has a mission in order to kill Megami. And this Naoya guy he's terrible, bro. Like, he's misogynistic, he's a fucking narcissist, he is not a good person whatsoever, but he's really cool. Do you know what I mean? He is cool, I can't lie. And while Naoya was fighting Choso in this episode, he took a moment to fix his hair and make himself look pretty. I just thought that was the funniest little bit of, like, they added that just to make you be like, this guy is such a douchebag. Like, it added so much to his character, that little bit. Like, they didn't have to do that, but I thought that was great. But the fight between Yuta and Yuji, I thought was really intense. It was barely even a fight, really. It was really just Yuta stalking Yuji until he managed to corner him, and then Rika grabbed Yuji, and Yuta ended off this episode with actually killing Yuji. I mean, that's a crazy way to start the first episode of the new season, is actually killing off your main protagonist. Like, he literally died. But like I said, there was this like cold and creepy intensity to Yuta that didn't really seem to fit his character from Jujutsu Kaisen 0, and there's a reason for that. It's because he was putting on an act. So moving on to the next episode, and what we learned in the second episode is the fact that Yuta this whole time was putting on an act, but he was contracted by the higher-ups in order to kill Yuji, because of Sukuna and Gojo being sealed away and that whole situation. He was asked to kill Yuji, but they didn't trust him, so they asked him to sign a contract that he would kill Yuji. So in order to gain their trust, he did just that. But because of Yuta's powers, he was able to kill him and then bring him straight back to life. So fulfilling his contract and then going into hiding with Yuji, he could also fulfill his promise to Gojo, which was to protect to protect Yuji, which I mean I thought that was great because I was very confused as how Yuta ended up like he was, because that the Yuta we saw in the first episode, while clinical and really cool, was not the Yuta we've come to know. Do you know what I mean? So it makes sense that he was putting on an act this whole time. And I thought it was really well done. You know, if it wasn't for the fact I'd already seen the movie, I would be like, the end of the first episode, I would have been like, what the fuck? You know, where do we go from here? Megumi then came and talked to Yuji about Kamo's plan for the culling game and the idea that all these Jujutsu sorcerers that have been activated by him essentially are going to be in this sort of game of strength just to see who's the strongest. They're going to be all killing each other. It just seems like all Kamo wants to do is just cause chaos. I mean, that is literally his plan. You know, that's what he wants. He wants chaos, and that's exactly what he's doing with this culling game. I gotta say though, the rules, I have no fucking clue. They went out on the screen way too quick, and I weren't pausing it to read all that sort of stuff. So hopefully, I don't have to do that. But if I have to, I will. Do you know what I mean? But the culling game is a really interesting idea. I feel like we're going to see a lot of more interesting characters come out of this. You know, a lot of new sorcerers have just appeared due to what Kamo has done. So it could be quite interesting. The other thing that Megumi said was Nobara is actually dead, which, I mean, he didn't say it outright. He didn't actually say she was dead, but when Yuji asked him, it was sort of implied that she's died. So if she has actually died like that off screen after what Mahito did to her, I will be very shocked because, you know, it's just crazy. She's like essentially a main character, you know what I mean? So for her to just be announced potentially dead like that would be crazy, but I would not put it past this show either, really. Also in this episode was the fight between Naoya and Choso, and it was brilliant. I love the clash of philosophies of these two. I think it's a really cool dynamic. You know, the fact that Naoya believes that if his bigger brothers are worse than him in any way, they essentially deserve to die. They're useless. They serve no purpose. And Choso's, as a big brother of so many, he says, you know, as a big brother, you serve a purpose no matter what. Either they follow your footsteps if you do good, or if you make mistakes, they can learn from you and not follow those footsteps, if that makes sense. And I love when he says, I gained the strength because I am the big brother and I had to make all these sort of mistakes. I just thought that was great. I really like the opposites of philosophies in family, in that sort of way. And the actual fight itself, I mean, Jujutsu Kaisen visually looked insane. I thought the blood manipulation looked unreal. The colors in this so far have been so vibrant and so great looking, to be honest. But besides the fight itself, I mean, the highlight for me, I can't lie, is when Yuta just came along and just fucking bitch smacked Choso just out of fucking nowhere. That was the most main character energy thing I've ever seen in my life. I love Choso, but I can't lie, like, it was worth seeing him get smacked like that to see what Yuta did, because that was class. But yeah, the fight itself in the cinema, it looked incredible, and watching it again on my TV, just beautiful. Jujutsu Kaisen doesn't miss with its fights. It just doesn't. After all of this, Yuji, Megumi, and Yuta meet up with Tsukumo and Mai, who's covered in burns, obviously, because of what Jogo did to her. And they decide that they're going to go and meet with Tengen and try and figure out how to proceed going forward with Kamo and what exactly his plans are and everything like that, because Tengen, you know, he knows everything pretty much. So that's what they're doing right now. And they actually managed to meet him at the end of this episode. At the very end of the episode, it concludes with Tengen standing there in this room, you know, completely white, nothing else there, very ethereal feeling. And, you know, this is the first time we've ever actually seen Tengen. I can't say that's what I expected him to look like, but, you know, there you go. It was really hilarious to see the fact that Mai and Tsukumo obviously didn't even know who Choso was after he did this big explanation of everything. And it was also a very sweet moment when Yuji actually introduced Choso as his big brother. You could tell how happy that made Choso in that moment. I just thought that was funny. That was great. But Tengen as a character is still quite a big mystery. We still don't know a whole lot about him, so I'm excited to learn more about him, hopefully, in the next episode and see how exactly he is going to give advice to these lot about how to proceed with Kamo and all of that sort of stuff, what he knows, what he doesn't know. It's gonna I think it's gonna be interesting. But in terms of the first couple of episodes of the season, I loved it. I enjoyed watching it the second time round, probably even more than I enjoyed watching it the first time round. Just being able to actually observe everything a little bit more instead of just sort of, you know, gawking at the cool animation and music and stuff like that. I'm even more excited about the fact that next week I'm going to be able to watch a new episode that I haven't seen yet, and I can't wait. Jujutsu Kaisen is fucking back, and I cannot wait to see how the culling games go down. I'm absolutely buzzing, so let's do it.